Heat fans, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we have a lot to talk about this next week. We'll be live on Thursday as well for the NBA trade deadline. And if Jimmy gets traded either today or Wednesday before deadline day, we will go live. This will be our thumbnail. So if you see it on YouTube, click on it. Come join us as we react. But make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss a thing around the Miami Heat. Could a Kevin Durant trade occur to the Miami Heat? It's an intriguing possibility just about 48 hours until the NBA trade deadline because on Monday afternoon, Jake Fischer, for who he is, did report that the Suns are open to listening to Kevin Durant offers. This is what he said exactly. Phoenix, entering Monday's business, continue to signal that it does not plan to move Durant before the deadline, but the Suns are believed to be listening at the very least to various teams' pitches for the 35-year-old scoring legend. Durant, meanwhile, is said to be aware of all of this. And I will say this, a Kevin Durant trade to Miami is certainly far-fetched. But hey, Luka Doncic to the Lakers was very far-fetched as well. Now, in order for this to happen, Kevin Durant would likely have to request a trade from the Phoenix Suns. Now, I doubt he will do that because Phoenix will not just give him up unless they feel that they have no shot of competing this year or KD makes a trade request. Now, if he did request a trade, it would be very, very simple for Miami to get this done technically. All it would require is Jimmy Butler, Josh Richardson going to Phoenix for Kevin Durant. Phoenix can aggregate contracts, but Miami can. So maybe they send Jimmy and J. Rich to Phoenix. They also send a couple second-round picks to sweeten up the deal. The Suns want Jimmy. Jimmy wants to go to Phoenix. I know it's to play with KD and Devin Booker, but if KD requests a trade, I don't think it's the most impossible thing in the world if KD requests a trade. And like I said, he has to request a trade for the millionth time on this episode. So drop it down in the comments for me. What percent chance does KD get traded? Scout 1 to 100. Let me know the percent chance that you think Kevin Durant ultimately gets traded away from the Phoenix Suns before Thursday's deadline. I'm not going to say 0, but I'll say the next closest thing. I'm going 1%. It's simple as this, guys. The Suns aren't going to trade KD. They just won't. As fun as it might seem to throw out that hypothetical, Jimmy probably wouldn't even want to go to Phoenix if he knew it was because Kevin Durant was coming to Miami, right? Now, KD with the Heat would be generational. You talk about that trade that we just flashed. Imagine a hero, KD, Bam, and then Kel'el Ware 2 through 4 or 2 through 5. I mean, it would just be absolutely spectacular. But the Suns aren't going to trade KD. Shams Charania backed that with this on the Pat McAfee show on Monday afternoon, saying that the Phoenix Suns are fully focused on trying to get a deal done for Jimmy Butler. They want to put Jimmy Butler on this team with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, not losing one of KD or Book. But the thing is that I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see Jimmy Butler heading to Phoenix. You can scroll back on the channel. Since late December, early January, it's been 5+ weeks that I have consistently said I do not think a trade ultimately goes down between Miami and Phoenix. There was maybe a 48-hour window where I thought there could be a trade happening right after the first 48 hours after the Suns traded with the Jazz to acquire those 3 first-round picks in exchange for their 1 pick. But it's been widely reported that teams do not want to trade for Bradley Beal. Beal doesn't want to waive his no-trade clause. And a trade for Jimmy to end up with Book and KD is going to need that to happen, and it's just not going to. Jake Fischer again here, doubling down, making it seem like it's almost impossible for Bradley Beal to waive his no-trade clause. Fischer saying the unrelenting word continues to be that Beal has no desire to bless a trade pretty much anywhere and prefers to remain in Phoenix, where his family has been settling after finally leaving the nation's capital. I'll say this, the Bradley Beal situation, it's truly hilarious. Now, Bradley Beal has every right. He was given that contract by Washington. The only two players that ever have a full no-trade clause in their contract, LeBron James and, yes, check notes, Bradley Beal. But either way, he's got it in his contract, and he has that right. He doesn't want to move his family left, right, center. If you ever played that game, great game, by the way. But either way, he doesn't want to waive his no-trade clause, and if it's just going to continue to be that way for Beal, then this trade, there's nothing to talk about because Phoenix can't get it done. So with 48 hours to go, I truly think it's going to have to be another team stepping up for Jimmy Butler, not Phoenix, because Beal, he ain't getting moved, man. And coming up, could the Golden State Warriors actually still be in play for Jimmy Butler? We made a video on Monday morning detailing how Jimmy doesn't want to go to Golden State and would not sign a long-term extension. But is that not deterring the Warriors? We'll talk about that in just a second. But I got to show some love to Prize Picks, the sponsor on today's show, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform out there. And I love playing Prize Picks. And with less than a week until the big game in football, don't miss it on the last game of the season where all you have to do is pair up one correct stat projection to win real cash. Why? Because they are actually giving you more than half a passing yard for Patrick Mahomes in the big game. He's guaranteed to hit that pretty much, right? You have to assume so. So you can get easy cash if you get one pick right. Also, check out their promos tab to tell any of their Super Sweat Millie winners big game lineups. If you tell a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split up to $1 million in promo funds. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Let's talk about Jimmy Butler heading to the Bay Area. Could he become Bay Area Jimmy? Because reports on Monday afternoon suggest the Warriors aren't totally out on the potential possibility of trading for Jimmy Butler, despite him saying that he would likely not extend with them this season or in the offseason. The report came in from Anthony Slater, who covers the Warriors for The Athletic, saying that not long after Brian Windhorst reported that trade talks to send Butler to Golden State have ended for now, the for now aspect of that report was pinpointed by team and league sources. The Warriors believe they are still firmly in the mix for Butler, team sources said. So Golden State not completely out on the idea of acquiring Jimmy Butler. And I'll say this to Golden State, Mike Dunleavy, and that front office. I'm begging you. Please, 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 please. Because as we talked about earlier, a Suns trade is probably not going to happen. So the only way Jimmy gets moved before the deadline is if a team like Milwaukee, Memphis, or Golden State acquires Jimmy Butler, still knowing that they likely won't get him to commit to them long term, could use him as a rental this year, and he might request a trade in the offseason to try to get to the Phoenix Suns once again. So if the Golden State Warriors are interested, I think there are 2 trade packages that you will see. And I would be willing to guess that I might get 100% correct on these trade packages if one of them actually went down. The first one is straight up between Golden State and Miami. There is a chance they get this done without needing a third team. Now, a third team is likely, but there is a pathway to get it done just between the two. Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, Kyle Anderson, and Kevon Looney end up in Miami. The Warriors get Jimmy Butler and Kevin Love. Miami also gets their own 2025 second-round pick back. Right now it's owed to Golden State, protected from 31 to 37, but assuming the Heat make the postseason, it would convey. So they get their own second-round pick back this year, plus a 2030 second-round pick. But obviously the headliner here for Miami is a couple expirings in Gary Payton, Kevon Looney, but also getting Andrew Wiggins to slot into this starting lineup. Wiggins has had a really good season to this point for Golden State as their third offensive option. You could argue been their second offensive option behind Steph at times, with Kuminga in and out of the lineup and Schroeder really not acclimating that well. Wiggins would be a great third option in Miami. Now, is it a third option on a championship team? Probably not, but you start him at the 3 to create a Wiggins, Bam, Ware front court. That's a lot of length, a lot of athleticism, a lot of defense, as well as spacing, three-point shooting. A lineup of Hero, Wiggins, Jovic, Bam, and Ware intrigues me quite a bit because Wiggins could guard 1 through 4 and do it pretty well. Not that you need him to with Jovic, Ware, and Bam on the front court. But here's the second trade option, which is probably more likely if a Heat deal gets done with the Warriors involved, where the Heat ultimately have a 3-team deal, including the Toronto Raptors, who've been widely reported and confirmed to want to acquire the services of Andrew Wiggins. They get Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and that second-round pick that we just mentioned from Miami in 2025. The Warriors get Jimmy Butler and Garrett Temple. Miami gets Gary Payton, Kevon Looney still, but instead of Andrew Wiggins, who's on a 3-year contract, we'll talk about that in just a second, they get the expiring $23 million from Bruce Brown. But instead of getting 2 second-round picks, because they are not getting as good of a player in Andrew Wiggins back, they are getting a first-round pick in 2025 from Golden State. It is top 14 lottery protected, which means if the Warriors ultimately are in the play-in and lose and are in the lottery, they get their pick back for 2025, but Miami would either get second-round picks or a future first-round pick that's protected if it doesn't convey, or if Golden State has this workout with Jimmy, Steph, and the rest of the crew, and they make the playoffs as a 7-8 seed, well, Miami would get that 15th, 16th overall pick potentially. But the reason why this trade feels very likely if one went down is because it's been reported time and time again that the Raptors want to be a third team to help facilitate a potential Jimmy Butler trade to acquire draft capital or get a player in that deal that they like. Well, they really like Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is from Toronto, or I don't know if he's actually from Toronto. He's from Canada for sure, though. And they've want him, apparently. I think it was actually a good fit in Toronto, too. Wiggins can really fit on any roster. I want Andrew Wiggins, and we'll talk about why in just a second. But I do find it interesting that this could be an option for the Heat, one of these 2 trades. And after I showed these 2 trades, I want to get the thoughts of the Heat fans down in the comment section. Which trade do you prefer for Miami? With Golden State, that is. Would you prefer the one where Miami gets the 4 players, 2 expirings, 2 second-round picks, and Andrew Wiggins? Or would you actually prefer the second one where they get 3 expiring contracts and Peyton, Looney, and Bruce Brown? That's about $39 million coming off the books this offseason, and a first-round pick lottery protected from Golden State. Which trade do you prefer for Miami's end? Expirings and 1 first-round pick, or Andrew Wiggins in a couple seconds? I would actually be typing my ones. I really, really would. I want Andrew Wiggins. I think he'd actually be a really good fit in Miami. We showed his numbers from this season earlier in the show, averaging 17 points per game, shooting efficiently from the field, both inside the arc and beyond the arc, 38% from 3. But his defensive versatility is what makes him so intriguing to me. A lineup of Wiggins, Bam, Ware in that front court. You can switch almost everything. Wiggins is a good rebounder as well for his size. He can space the floor. He can drive inside, finish amongst contact at times. I think Wiggins would be a really good fit for Miami. Don't think it takes them to a Super Bowl. Jeez Louise. Takes you to an NBA Finals caliber team, but it certainly takes you to a team that might be able to win a playoff series and get to the second round with how well Heroes played and how well Bam Adebayo has started to play as of late. And Wiggins' contract isn't even that bad, in my opinion. I know Miami doesn't want any contract going into the 26-27 season, but he's under contract next year at $28 million. He's got a player option for that 26-27 season, so if he plays well underneath you, it's not even guaranteed he would be playing for you at that $30.1 million. He could opt out and ultimately give you the cap space you desire and flexibility in 26-27. But also, if you make this deal, you could potentially have Wiggins as a trade piece, because if someone comes available, you could then offer Wiggins and other young pieces / expiring contracts plus draft capital for the star that comes available. Wiggins doesn't have a no-trade clause, so you could flip that $30 million contract if you absolutely need to. So that's why I think Golden State is the perfect option. It either gives Miami a first-round pick and expiring contracts and gives you the flexibility you want, or you get a solid piece to add to this roster now that you could flip later on in the next couple of years, but also some draft capital too. Golden State, please, please, please trade for Jimmy Butler. I hate that I'm begging on this. And if he does get traded, I will have you covered with a live show, as we said off the top. So hit that sub button, join us, because we will have you cover on everything you need to know surrounding the Miami Heat over the next 48 hours as we get closer, and closer to the February 6th trade deadline, 3 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a wild one, so make sure you're locked in.